The people who feel the richest often spend the least, not the ones with the biggest houses or the newest cars. The ones who seem calmest about money, freest, least stressed, are very often the ones quietly spending far less than you would expect. And here is the strange part. They are not depriving themselves. They are not miserable, pinching every penny, saying no to everything. They have figured out something about how spending and happiness actually connect that almost nobody is taught. And once you understand it, you can feel richer this month by spending less, not more. Let me start with the thing everyone gets wrong. We treat spending like it works in a straight line. More money spent, more happiness bought. Spend twice as much, feel twice as good. But that is just not how it works, and the research is completely clear on this. Once your basic needs and a few modest comforts are met, spending more money on stuff brings rapidly diminishing returns on happiness. Your first winter coat changes your life. Your fifth adds almost nothing. The first meal out this month is a treat. The 10th is just Tuesday. Each extra dollar spent on more of the same buys less and less feeling until you are spending real money for almost no return at all. But diminishing returns is only half of it, and it is the gentler half. Here is the part that actually costs you. Almost everything you buy comes with a hidden second price tag, one you do not see at the register. Every possession carries an ongoing cost. Not just the money you paid, but the money it keeps costing. The time it takes to maintain. The space it occupies. The attention it quietly demands for years. Wealthy people, the ones who stay wealthy, think about this constantly. When they consider a purchase, they do not just ask what it costs to buy. They ask what it will cost to own. And that number, the cost to own, is the one that quietly bankrupts people who only ever looked at the sticker. Think about a backpack you are carrying up a mountain. That mountain is your life, and every single thing you buy is another item you put in the pack. Now, some items are absolutely worth their weight. The water, the map, the one good warm layer. These make the entire climb better, and you would be a fool to leave them behind. That is good spending on what genuinely matters. But most of what people stuff into the backpack is not water or a map. It is weight that gave them one moment of, ooh, nice at the store, and then just got heavier with every step for years afterward. The gadget they used twice. The clothes they never wear. The bigger thing that needed maintaining, insuring, storing, worrying about. Each one felt good for a moment at the register. And each one has been on their back, making the climb harder ever since. And here is what that backpack does to a life. The person bent double under a massive pack, sweating, exhausted, barely able to move, is not the rich one, no matter how full their bag is or how expensive the contents were. The person who feels rich is the one who ruthlessly carries only what is worth its weight, light, free, fast. Able to actually enjoy the climb, look around, move where they want, because they are not hauling years of 2-week thrills on their spine. Feeling rich was never about how much is in the backpack. It is about how little of it is dead weight. Let me make the hidden tax concrete, because you have paid it 100 times without naming it. Think about the last thing you were really excited to buy. Remember the wanting. How much space it took up in your head before you got it? How sure you were it would matter? Now honestly remember how long the excitement actually lasted once you had it. For most purchases, it is about 2 weeks. 2 weeks of genuine pleasure, and then it quietly folds into the background of your life and becomes just another thing you own, giving you almost nothing. But if you financed it, you are still paying for it long after the feeling died. You are making payments on a thrill you can barely remember, on an item now sitting in the backpack as pure weight. That is the trade most spending actually is, a short, bright spike of pleasure exchanged for a long, dull tax you carry for years. Once you see that trade clearly, you stop wanting to make it on things that do not matter, not out of discipline, but because you can finally see what you are really buying. And this is the quiet reason getting rid of things so often feels better than getting them. People expect decluttering to feel like loss, and instead it feels like relief, like putting down a heavy pack. That feeling is information. It is your own mind telling you that the stuff was weight, not wealth, that it had been costing you attention and space the whole time, and that lightness, not accumulation, is what actually felt good. Most people feel that relief and never connect it back to the next purchase they are about to make. The rich feeling people connected it long ago. Now here's where people make a mistake in the other direction. And it matters, because I am not telling you to become a miser. There is a crucial difference between being frugal and being cheap, and it is the whole game. A cheap person is driven by fear. They avoid spending on everything, minimizing every cost, saying no reflexively, including to the things that would genuinely enrich their life. That is not wealth. That is just a different kind of poverty, a poverty of experience, run by anxiety. A frugal person is driven by something completely different. Value. They spend ruthlessly little on the things that do not matter to them. And then, precisely because they did that, they spend generously and without guilt on the few things that genuinely light them up. Cheap minimizes everything. Frugal redirects everything. One is fear. The other is freedom. This is the move the rich feeling people have quietly made. They have decided on purpose what actually matters to them, and they defend the money for it by being almost aggressively indifferent to everything else. They will drive an unremarkable car for 15 years without a second thought, because cars are simply not where their happiness lies, and then spend freely on travel, or their kids, or their freedom to work less, because that is where it does live. To an outsider, they look inconsistent, cheap about some things, and generous about others. They are not inconsistent at all. They are the most consistent people there are. Every dollar is being pointed deliberately at what actually returns happiness and starved from everything that does not. And there is a specific kind of spending that almost always returns more than stuff. And the research on this is strong. Experiences tend to make people lastingly happier than objects. A trip, a meal with people you love, learning something, going somewhere. And there are real reasons why. An object sits there and you adapt to it within weeks. It becomes part of the furniture of your life and stops giving you anything. But an experience becomes part of you. It turns into a memory, a story, a piece of who you are, and it keeps paying you back every time you remember it. You also do not compare experiences the way you compare things. Nobody stands next to you making you feel your holiday was inferior, the way they can make you feel your car is. The experience is yours, undiminishable, and it does not need dusting, insuring, or upgrading. It is the lightest, highest return thing you can possibly put in the backpack. There is one more weight people load into the backpack without realizing, and it is the heaviest of all because it is invisible. It is the stuff bought not for yourself, but to be seen by others. The upgrade nobody needed except to signal something to strangers. The version that costs 3 times more and works exactly the same, bought purely so someone else would notice. This is the cruelest weight because the pleasure it buys depends entirely on other people, and other people stop noticing almost immediately. You carry the cost forever, they forgot within a day, and the thing itself does nothing for you that the cheaper version would not have done. The rich feeling person has quietly opted out of this game entirely. They stopped buying things to be seen, and the moment they did, an enormous amount of weight simply fell out of the pack, because a shocking share of most people's spending turns out to be for an audience that was never really watching. And when you stop spending for other people, something surprising happens to how you feel about the people spending loudly around you. The neighbor's new car, the coworker's constant upgrades, the friend who always has the latest thing. Instead of feeling behind, you start to see the weight on their backs, the payments, the maintenance, the quiet stress of carrying it all, and the envy just dissolves. You are no longer in the race because you finally understood the race was making everyone in it poorer and more tired, not richer. That freedom from needing to be seen, from comparing, from carrying, is what actually feels rich, and it costs less than almost anything else you could buy. So look at what the rich feeling person is actually doing altogether. They spend almost nothing on the things that give a quick thrill and a long tax. They ruthlessly protect that freed up money and mental space. And they pour it without guilt into the handful of things that genuinely return happiness, especially experiences and freedom rather than more objects to carry. From the outside, it looks like they spend less, and they do spend less in total. But it does not feel like less to them. It feels like more. Because every dollar they do spend is landing exactly where it becomes joy, and none of it is leaking into weight they will carry for years. Here's the reframe, and it changes everything about the phrase, spend less. Spending less was never subtraction from your life. It is subtraction of the things that were quietly draining it. When you cut the spending that does not matter, you are not making yourself poorer. You are removing a tax you did not know you were paying and freeing that money for the few things that actually light you up. So spend less stops meaning deprive yourself and starts meaning stop the leaks so the money can finally reach what matters. The money you save this way is not money lost to a joyless budget. It is money rescued from weight and redirected to happiness, or saved toward the freedom and security we talked about in other videos. That is why it feels like abundance instead of restriction. You are not carrying less joy. You are carrying less weight with the same joy up the same mountain. And this is why two people with the exact same income can feel so completely different about money. One spends across everything, a little thrill here, an upgrade there, a backpack filling with weight, and feels perpetually stretched and strangely unsatisfied despite owning so much. The other spends almost nothing on what does not matter, pours the rest into what does, and feels free and rich on the identical income. The difference was never how much they had to spend. It was whether their spending was landing on happiness or leaking into weight. So the next time you are about to buy something, do not just ask if you can afford it. Ask what it will cost to own, not just to buy. Ask whether it is water and a map, or just weight. Ask whether it is a thing you will adapt to in 2 weeks, or an experience that will become part of you. That one question, asked honestly before the money leaves your hands, is worth more than almost any raise, because it points every dollar you have at the only thing money was ever supposed to buy, which was a life that actually feels rich. The belief that spending more is the path to feeling richer was taught to you by everyone who profits from your spending, which is nearly everyone, which means it can be unlearned. The pattern was learned, which means it can be rewired. Carry only what is worth its weight, spend freely on what truly matters and almost nothing on what does not, and watch the same income you always had start to feel like abundance, because a light backpack was always the point. And it was never the fullest one that made it to the top of the mountain feeling rich. Next time, I want to show you why the fear of spending money can quietly cost you just as much as spending too much, and how to know which one is actually your problem.